Well, we all know, of course, it's in the news every day when we're talking about in the world of movie news, but that Netflix and Paramount are in a heated battle right now to get Warner Brothers. Well, apparently now, the old betting term, the smart money is on whatever. Well, literally, it seems now like the money is on Netflix getting it, because in this new report coming from the New York Post, Wall Street traders are now betting that Warner Brothers will get acquired by Netflix and that it will fly by and get government regulatory approval pretty much no problem. This is what comes to us from the New York Post, who write the following. Wall Street traders are now betting that Warner Brothers Discovery not only will be sold to Netflix, but also easily approved by U.S. and overseas regulators, with so-called short interest in the stock recently evaporating. What they basically mean by that is, if you've seen a movie like The Big Short, you'd kind of know what this means. But for a very long time, the article points out, it was a very popular thing in Wall Street to short Warner Brothers, which basically meant you were betting that Warner Brothers is going to fail and that you would profit if Warner Brothers stock goes down. The New York Post article is basically saying that's all gone now. That's pretty much disappeared. They say basically now like 3% of investors are shorting Warner Brothers at this point. So it's basically drawn up. Now, what do they attribute this to? Well, they say the sentiment began to change early last year as CEO David Zaslav began to implement his long-term vision for the company. First, he settled on a streaming name that utilized one of his best-selling brands. Still, the biggest mistake he ever made was taking out the HBO name. I'll never understand that, but at least they corrected it and put it back in. Then he made it profitable and began churning out hits in his Warner Brothers Studios subsidiary. He slashed debt, shares recovered from their near penny stock lows to up to around $12, which again, Rob, we talked about recently on the show about how that was the highest it's been since coming out from under the AT&T oppression that Warner Brothers used to live under there. And now they're saying, you know what? Wall Street, the investors now believe that Warner Brothers is going to do great, that Netflix is going to acquire it, and that it's going to get its regulatory approval so pretty easy. Now, I don't know about it getting regulatory approval easily, but the old adage goes, Rob, follow the money. And right now, the money seems to be on Netflix getting Warner Brothers and pretty clearing it. Anyway, you read this story. What are the elements that are standing out to you about it?
Well, I just like the fact that they've basically picked a winner in this. And I enjoy that when the money people, like you said, follow the money. When the money people speak, it's always reassuring. I mean, because, again, I spoke to a friend of mine, a pretty high-ranking guy at the studio yesterday, and he reiterated that they think it's a much better option, because one of the things that I think would happen if Skydance got Warner Brothers is they would dice and slice it up. A lot of people would lose their jobs because there's a lot of redundancy, whereas with Netflix, there really isn't any redundancy. So I would just like to see the studio continue to flourish, especially coming off the year they had in 2025. And obviously the things that they were doing, the Mike DeLuca, Pam Abdi reign over there finally reached fruition. And even when something, they might not have made enough money off one battle after another to justify its cost. I don't know if it's profitable, but it's still, from a creative standpoint, it could very well win Best Picture. You're working with great filmmakers, which is, under other people's, they lost Christopher Nolan. And that's a big mistake. And that will never happen under Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca's reign. So it's great that hopefully Warner Brothers will stay. That's what I want the most, John, is to see Warner Brothers left intact. And
like tens of thousands of people are going to lose their jobs if Paramount ends up getting Warner Brothers. Because like you said, Netflix pointed out, hey, Warner Brothers is a completely different business from us. when we acquire them, we're not going to fire anybody because we don't have anybody in our Netflix side that does what they do at Warner Brothers because it's a completely different business. Whereas Paramount is saying, oh yeah, we're going to fire like crazy. We're going to fire everybody because there's going to be so much overlap. Now, the reason Paramount said that was because they thought that would appeal to the shareholders, that the Warner Brothers shareholders would like the idea that we cut it back. But Rob, I don't know if you saw the story the other day that came out that Warner Brothers revealed that 97% of the shareholders have rejected Paramount's hostile takeover bid. So It's like the owners themselves, the shareholders, are not interested in having Paramount own them.
You know, one of the things that people don't really know because it's not necessarily sexy news, but there is a real effort at Warner Brothers happening to make new transfers of their old catalog titles. And they have very aggressively made physical media deals. And the reason they make those physical media deals with companies like Arrow and Shout Factory and Criterion is because it's allowing their back catalog to get remastered. And that remastered back catalog, I mean, they're going deep into their catalog all the way back into the 30s and 40s up to the present day. All of that stuff can wind up on Netflix. You know, so their entire back catalog is being remastered. And so this is not something that has to that Netflix is going to have to start. It's been happening at Warner Brothers for years now. And when you look at Warner Brothers made an aggressive deal. They have like 100 movies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s coming out through Arrow. You know, just that, and Arrow does a great job. They have Excalibur has finally been remastered in 4K, and I love Excalibur from 1981. And that now this beautiful new transfer can then eventually wind up on Netflix. So they're getting not just the studio, but they're getting a back catalog that is actively being remastered into the very best versions of those films that'll possibly exist. I can't say what it is, but I heard about it, something they're doing yesterday that's astonishing in terms of their back catalog and what they're going to do. And I mean, that's got to be on Netflix's mind, that they're going to just get an embarrassment of riches that they can put right up on their platform. Not just all the TV, but movies that are readily dripping coming out of the remastering in beautiful, sparkling new editions. So they're going to get an incredible amount of programming, whereas Paramount's allowed their library to be gutted by everyone.
Here's the one I think remaining, because, you know, I used to feel that Netflix getting Warner Brothers was the worst possible case scenario. One by one, my fears have been addressed. But the one thing that I still think stands out there and is floating out there like a specter over the graveyard, that I think is going to be an ominously bad thing for some people. I fear, you know me, I'm not a physical media guy. I'm a digital guy, right, all that kind of stuff. But I do fear what will continue to happen with physical media, particularly coming out of the Warner Brothers archives, once Netflix takes it over. Because remember, Sarandos is saying that the best thing about them buying Warner Brothers is that they're a totally different business. And we're getting into new businesses. But still core to Netflix's business model is that people consume their home entertainment through streaming. That's core to their identity. And I do fear, even as somebody who's not a physical media guy myself, I do fear that this could spell an even greater hastening towards maybe eliminating physical media stuff coming out of Warner Brothers. As somebody who is very tied into the physical media world yourself, what do you think about that?
Well, here's what's really interesting. The companies that Warner Brothers has been licensing movies to, a lot of them share the price, or they are paying for the remastering efforts of these particular movies. And the caveat is that Warner Brothers then owns the new masters. So they're able to so they literally have physical media as one of the drivers of these remastering efforts. Now, Warner Archive is its own label, so they're putting out their own classic stuff, and they started to dip into making 4Ks. They did a great transfer of the Bing Crosby movie, High Society, that was picked yesterday as one of the 25 films that the Library of Congress picked to go into the film registry. I believe John Carpenter's The Thing was picked too. So physical media is driving that. So I would imagine that Netflix wouldn't mind physical media, because physical media, it's not going to be around for very much longer. I mean, as much as I'm loath to admit that, but for the next, call it 5 years, they're going to get the byproduct. As long as the titles sell and they still make a little bit of money, the byproduct is they're getting all these brand new transfers that they don't have to pay for. So they're just going to get the transfers after the licensing time is over, which is really exciting, because Warner Brothers, the stuff that, I mean, Vinegar Syndrome is putting out. Warner Brothers did this there's a TV movie called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark that Guillermo del Toro remade. Well, Vinegar Syndrome, which is a boutique label, they're putting out the 4K version of that. They did a 4K remastering, but Warner Brothers was never going to put that out. Vinegar Syndrome will. So we're going to have a boon when it comes to Warner Brothers physical media for a while. So if you collect physical media, polish up that credit card for the next couple of years. You're going to get a lot of great Warner titles, and then hopefully they'll wind up all on Netflix in one place, which will be great, because you'll have the entire legacy of Warner Brothers, kind of like what Disney Plus is, where the entire legacy will be on Netflix to enjoy. And it's great.
All right, we need to move on here. So guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Warner Brothers, apparently Wall Street is saying they're going to get taken over by Netflix. They're betting on that, and that it'll clear regulatory procedures. Do you think they're right? Do you think you're wrong? They're wrong. Do you think that's where the smart money is? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.